Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at something that I find super fascinating, and that's Carl Jung's theory of archetypes.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever noticed how,
Definitely.
characters in stories or even people in real life, they seem to kind of fit these certain molds?
Yeah.
It's like these patterns of behavior that go way deeper than just like individual quirks.
Yeah, it's a really intriguing idea, isn't it? Jung believed that we all kind of tap into something called the collective unconscious, and it's like this universal library of images and symbols and behaviors that have been with us since like the dawn of time.
Okay, so that's what really caught my eye in this article from the Spiritual Seek called Carl Gustav Jung's Theory of Archetypes,
Mm,
the 12 personalities of our collective unconscious.
right.
It's claiming that these patterns, these archetypes, they're like blueprints for human experience.
Yeah.
Like they show up in myths and dreams and art, even just like our daily interactions.
Well, think of it this way. You inherit physical traits from your family, maybe even talents or interests.
Yeah. Right.
But Jung argued that we inherit something even deeper from humanity's past. Experiences, fears, desires, they've all left a mark on the human psyche.
So even though I've never fought a dragon or sailed uncharted seas or anything like that,
Yeah.
those ancient stories about heroes and explorers, they still resonate with me.
Exactly.
Because they're tapping into this shared well of human experience, like across all of humanity.
Exactly. And look at myths and fairy tales across cultures, right?
Mhm.
They often have these strikingly similar themes and characters.
Oh, sure.
You know, the hero battling a monster, the
Yeah.
wise sage, the innocent maiden.
Yeah.
They appear again and again, and it speaks to something universal within us.
Okay, now my mind is officially blown.
It's pretty wild.
So how do these archetypes actually play out in our own lives?
Right.
Do we each have one main archetype that defines us?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
Jung identified 12 primary archetypes,
Okay.
and we each embody aspects of several. It's like having a cast of characters within our psyche that are influencing our motivations, fears, our relationships.
Yeah.
They color our entire experience of the world.
12 archetypes.
Yeah.
That's a lot to keep track of.
It is a lot. It's a lot to unpack.
But before we dive into each one, the article mentions something called cardinal orientations.
Yes.
What are those exactly?
So think of them as like the compass points of human motivation. Okay.
Okay.
The fundamental drives that shape our desires and our behaviors. Jung identified 4:
Okay.
ego, order, social, and freedom.
So each archetype kind of falls under one of these orientations.
Precisely. And it helps us to understand those underlying motivations.
Okay.
So for example, the hero, the magician, and the rebel fall under the ego orientation.
Okay.
They're driven by this desire to assert themselves, to leave their mark.
To achieve something extraordinary.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how all of this connects.
Yeah.
So let's dive into that first archetype, the hero.
Okay.
Everyone loves a good hero story, right?
Of course, of course.
But is it really as simple as just being courageous and strong?
Well, the hero is definitely about courage and overcoming obstacles.
Yeah.
But it goes deeper than that.
Okay.
Think about classic heroes like Hercules or modern day figures like Superman.
Okay.
They face dangers, right? They fight for what's right, and they inspire us to be better,
Yeah.
but they often have a shadow side too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, the article mentions Joseph Campbell's hero's journey,
Right.
which is like that common story structure that we see so much.
Absolutely.
Like the call to adventure, the challenges, the triumph.
Right.
It just resonates, I think, because it reflects our own potential for growth.
Exactly. But even heroes, they have weaknesses.
Right.
And their need to be the savior, it can become their downfall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they might struggle to ask for help or admit vulnerability. Remember Hercules?
Yeah.
Despite his strength, he was driven to madness and ultimately tragedy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, which ironically makes them more relatable, right?
Absolutely.
We all have our struggles.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if sometimes our own need to be the hero might actually hold us back.
That's a great point. And that's the power of these archetypes. They reveal the complexities of being human.
Right.
The light and shadow within each of us.
All right, next up, the magician.
Yeah,
This one sounds pretty mystical.
it does.
What sets the magician apart from, say, the hero?
Okay, well, the magician is about transformation and harnessing unseen forces,
Okay.
whether that's, literal magic or the power of technology and innovation.
Okay.
Think of Leonardo da Vinci. artist, inventor, scientist.
Yeah.
He embodies that drive to kind of shape reality.
The article points out that magicians can be inspiring, but also potentially manipulative.
Yes, very true.
They have a power to create and destroy.
Precisely. Like technology, right? It can be used for good or ill.
Oh, yeah.
The magician reminds us that any form of power has to be wielded responsibly. Da Vinci himself grappled with the ethical implications of his inventions.
For sure. Okay, this is getting really interesting.
Yeah.
So what about the rebel? What motivates them?
Okay, so the rebel, or outlaw, defies conventions and challenges the status quo.
Okay.
They crave freedom, they reject authority.
Gotcha.
Think of figures like Rosa Parks, who challenged segregation, or Che Guevara, who fought against oppressive systems.
Yeah.
They're catalysts for change, but they often face isolation and opposition.
Yeah, their willingness to stand up for their beliefs, even at personal cost, is super powerful.
It is.
But it also highlights, a potential downside of this archetype.
Yeah.
Like the loneliness of going against the grain.
Absolutely. The rebel archetype pushes us to question assumptions and fight for what we believe in.
Yeah.
But it also reminds us that true change often comes at a price.
Yeah, that's a good point. Wow. Heavy stuff, right? This is a lot to take in.
It is. But it's fascinating, isn't it?
It really is. And we've only just scratched the surface.
We have. We've got a lot more to explore.
So much more to unpack here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
When we come back, we're going to keep diving deep into these Jungian archetypes and discuss how we can actually apply this knowledge to our own lives.
Can't wait. Welcome back.
Now that we've kind of introduced these potent Jungian archetypes,
Right.
let's explore how this knowledge can be applied to your life.
That's the exciting part.
Yeah, that's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
It's one thing to, learn about them in theory,
Right.
but seeing how they actually show up in our lives, that's where it gets really interesting.
You hit the nail on the head. Let's start with self-awareness, right? Understanding which archetypes resonate most strongly with you can unlock incredible insights into your motivations, your strengths, even your weaknesses.
Okay, so say I realize I have, a strong caregiver archetype.
Okay.
It explains why I'm always drawn to, helping others.
Yeah.
Sometimes even, putting their needs before my own.
Right.
But how does that knowledge actually help me?
It can help you to avoid a common caregiver pitfall, and that's burnout.
Oh, okay.
Knowing this tendency empowers you to set boundaries and prioritize your well-being without feeling guilty.
Right.
It's about harnessing that compassion, but also protecting yourself.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
What about someone who identifies with the rebel archetype?
Okay. Yeah.
How can they use that self-awareness?
So it can help them to channel that rebellious energy constructively.
Yeah.
They might excel in fields that allow them to challenge conventions, disrupt the status quo.
Like what kind of fields?
Think entrepreneurs, activists, artists. They often have that rebel drive to shake things up.
So instead of just being contrarian,
Right.
they can use that fire to make a real difference.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. But wouldn't focusing on specific archetypes to be limiting in a way?
Okay.
I mean, aren't we more complex than that?
It's not about putting ourselves in boxes.
Okay.
These archetypes are more like lenses through which we can view our own psyche.
Okay.
It helps us to understand why we react in certain ways, why we're drawn to certain people,
Yeah.
why we might struggle with certain challenges.
It's like having a user manual for your own mind.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got self-awareness.
Yeah.
What about relationships?
Okay.
How can archetypes help us to navigate those,
Yeah.
those tricky waters?
This is where it gets really fascinating.
Okay.
When you start to see archetypal energies at play in your relationships, it can provide incredible clarity,
Okay.
even help to resolve conflicts.
For example, if I know that my partner has a strong ruler archetype,
Okay.
it explains why they're assertive and take charge.
Exactly. Understanding that tendency can prevent power struggles.
Oh, okay.
Instead of competing for control, you can appreciate their leadership
Yeah.
while asserting your own needs in a healthy way.
So it's not about changing them, but understanding the underlying motivations behind their behavior,
That's it.
like learning their language.
Precisely. It fosters compassion and empathy.
Oh, okay.
Instead of seeing their actions as personal attacks, you recognize them as expressions of their archetypal energy.
Whoa, this makes me think about all my past relationships in a whole new light.
Right.
I can see where clashes might have happened because I didn't understand those dynamics.
And it's a powerful tool for understanding past relationships, too.
Okay.
It reveals patterns in your interactions
Yeah.
and sheds light on why some relationships were more challenging than others.
This is seriously mind-blowing. But
Yeah.
and maybe this is like a bit skeptical of me.
Sure.
Could focusing too much on archetypes make us, jump to conclusions about people?
Right.
Like, isn't there a risk of oversimplifying things?
You raise a valid point. Remember, these are guides,
Oh.
not rigid labels.
Gotcha.
We shouldn't pigeonhole people based on perceived archetypes.
The human psyche is far too complex for that.
So it's more about using this knowledge to, deepen our understanding,
Yeah.
but always remaining open to nuance and individual differences.
Exactly. It's about holding these concepts lightly.
Okay.
Now, switching gears a bit, have you ever considered how these archetypes might influence our career choices?
I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, tell me more.
Your dominant archetypes can offer clues about the kind of work that brings you satisfaction and purpose.
Right.
Someone with a strong creator archetype, for instance,
Okay.
might thrive in a field where they can express their creativity, bring new ideas to life.
And someone with, a strong hero archetype might be drawn to careers that involve, risk-taking, making a difference, like
Yeah.
a firefighter or a human rights lawyer.
Precisely. Even if your job doesn't perfectly align with your dominant archetypes,
Right.
you can still find ways to express those energies within your work.
Okay.
Like a caregiver with a desk job might find fulfillment mentoring colleagues.
Yeah.
Or volunteering for a cause they believe in.
So it's not about the job title itself,
Right.
but about finding ways to align your work with your deeper motivations and values.
Exactly.
It's about making your work an expression of who you are.
You got it. And that's what leads to genuine job satisfaction.
Okay.
When you can express your authentic self through your work, it becomes a source of meaning and purpose.
Right.
It goes beyond just earning a paycheck.
This is all so insightful, but
Yeah.
are there any potential downsides to focusing on these archetypes?
Sure.
Could it become limiting or lead to self-fulfilling prophecies?
That's a great question. It's important to be aware of potential pitfalls.
Okay.
One of the biggest dangers is using archetypes as rigid labels,
Okay.
which can prevent us from seeing the full complexity of ourselves and others.
Right. It's not about saying
Right.
I'm a rebel, therefore I must act this way.
Exactly.
We're all dynamic,
Right.
ever-evolving individuals.
Absolutely. The archetypes are meant to be guides, not straitjackets.
Yeah.
They provide a framework for understanding,
Okay.
but don't define us entirely.
Gotcha.
We need to be careful not to limit ourselves or others based on archetypal interpretations.
And there's the risk of projecting our own interpretations onto others.
Absolutely.
Someone might seem like a rebel,
Yeah.
but maybe they're expressing aspects of the explorer archetype instead.
Exactly. That's why it's crucial to stay curious and open-minded in our interactions with others.
Yeah.
And to remember that we all embody a unique blend of archetypal energies.
Okay, so it's about using this knowledge responsibly.
Yes.
As a tool for self-discovery and deeper understanding.
Yeah.
But not letting it turn into rigid labels or stereotypes.
Well said. The human psyche is incredibly complex and constantly evolving.
Yeah.
The interplay of these archetypes within us is dynamic.
Yeah.
And can shift throughout our lives.
This conversation has been so eye-opening.
It's really fascinating stuff.
I feel like we've only just begun to explore this rich and fascinating world of archetypes.
We've certainly just scratched the surface, but hopefully you've gained a sense of the power of Jungian archetypes and how they can be applied to your life.
Yeah.
But the journey doesn't end there.
So before we wrap up, what are some practical steps our listeners can take to continue learning about and applying this knowledge?
Okay. Yeah.
Where do we go from here? Welcome back, everyone. I am still processing everything we uncovered about these Jungian archetypes, So I've got this new framework for understanding, myself, A&D, everyone around me.
It really is a fascinating lens through which to view, human behavior and motivation.
Right. Before the break, we were talking about some practical ways to, apply this knowledge.
Right.
What are some specific steps our listeners can take to explore these archetypes further?
Okay.
Where we go from here?
Well, first off, if this has sparked your curiosity, I highly recommend diving into some deeper reading.
Okay.
The article from The Spiritual Seek is a good foundation,
Yeah.
but there are countless books and articles that explore Jungian archetypes in a lot more detail.
I've already added a few titles to my reading list. What else can we do beyond reading?
Introspection is key.
Okay.
So grab a journal and dedicate some time to reflect on the archetypes that we've discussed today.
Sure.
Which ones resonate most strongly with you?
Yeah.
Can you see them playing out in your own life, your relationships, even your career path?
I love that idea. I'm a big believer in the power of journaling.
Yeah.
Sometimes just getting those thoughts out on paper can lead to some amazing breakthroughs.
It's amazing what we can uncover when we take the time to really examine our own inner landscape.
Yeah.
You can even explore how different archetypes interact within you.
Yep.
For instance, do you notice any tension between your hero archetype and your caregiver archetype? How do those energies influence your decisions and relationships?
Oh, now things are getting really interesting.
Yeah.
I can see how those two archetypes might clash a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
What other tools or resources are available for exploring archetypes?
Well, there's a whole world of online resources, including archetype tests.
Oh, okay.
These can be a fun way to gain insights into your dominant archetypes,
Right.
revealing patterns in your personality and motivations that you might not have noticed before.
Okay, I have to admit, I love a good personality test.
I do too.
Are those tests reliable?
Well, while they can be insightful, it's important to remember that they're just a starting point, not a definitive assessment.
Oh.
Use them as a springboard for deeper reflection and self-discovery.
Gotcha.
Don't box yourself in based solely on test results.
Right. It's about using those insights as a tool, but always acknowledging, our own complexity and the fact that we're constantly growing and evolving.
Absolutely.
Any other fun ways to engage with these archetypes?
Well, you can find them woven into stories and myths throughout history.
Okay.
Pay attention to the characters in movies, books, even your own dreams.
Oh, wow.
What archetypal energies do they embody? How do their stories resonate with your own experiences?
It's like having a secret decoder ring for understanding human behavior.
I like that.
I bet I'll start noticing archetypes everywhere now that I'm more aware of them.
You probably will.
And that's the beauty of it.
It is, yeah.
The more you understand archetypes, the more you'll see them at play in the world around you.
Right.
It adds a whole new dimension to experiencing life.
Absolutely, it does.
This has honestly been one of the most thought-provoking deep dives we've done.
It's really fascinating stuff.
I feel like I've gained such a valuable new perspective on myself and the world.
I'm glad to hear that.
Do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap things up?
Sure.
What's the key takeaway you hope they'll remember?
Embrace the complexity of your own psyche.
Okay.
Don't shy away from exploring both the light and shadow sides of your archetypal energies.
Yeah.
And remember, the goal isn't to become a perfect archetype.
Right.
It's about integrating the different aspects of yourself into a harmonious whole.
That's beautifully said. I think that's the perfect note to end on.
Indeed, indeed. May your journey of self-discovery be filled with insight, growth, and a healthy dose of wonder.
And as always, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey into the world of Jungian archetypes.